Right, this last topic we're going to cover, if we have multiple panels in the aircraft, we might have, for example, a home panel, which is the startup panel, something like that 4 gauge plus text box, central box panel. And that would be something that we would have come up, as the first panel, the home panel, when the transmitter's powered on, and it would read the battery voltages, state of charge. It would give us the high and low settings on the current meters as we move the sticks around to confirm that we didn't have any binding in any of our controls. And then suppose we had another panel that was the state of the turbine that we were going to use for turbine startup. So one of the things that we've included in the app is this ability to create links. And so it's basically a sequencer. And so we can create a new one of these, and we can say that there's going to be some switch. And this can be a conventional switch. Typically, I would tend to make it some control that I'm already going to operate in the normal operation of the airplane. And so in this case, we've just for testing set it to SD, which is this switch up on the top panel. And then we can tell it, that's a normal Jetty switch setup screen. I can set it to a logical switch. I can set it to a proportional threshold, anything I like. This next box is, do I trigger on the plus or the minus? Is it the positive going or the negative going transition of that switch? And so for the example I gave with the home panel being a startup panel, I might set the switch to be that analog threshold switch on the trim control for the turbine. So when I bring the trim up to enable the turbine start, I would have it automatically then switch to the screen with the turbine status. So I would say it is from pre-flight C box to turbine. And so that says that when switch D, and that's just an example here, but typically I would set that to the trim switch on the transmitter acting as the switch here. When that got brought up, it would flip me from pre-flight C box to turbine. And similarly, if I had some gauges I wanted to have on the screen while I was flying, I could, for example, when I dropped the flaps from flaps up to takeoff position, I could use that switch. I could create another row in the sequencer, set up that control. Again, it's a control I'm already going to operate. In fact, I could actually have it off of releasing the brakes and say when the brakes come off, that means I'm ready to taxi, and I might switch to a different instrument panel. And then when I took off and put the gear up, I could have the gear up trigger, yet a different panel. And so you can use your imagination there and string together as many panels as you like and define them with switches. And again, my approach to this would be not to create new switches, because the last thing I want when I'm flying is another switch to operate, but I'd look at the switches or the control inputs that delineated the phases of flight I was already going to do, and then I would make panels that were appropriate for each of those phases of flight, and that I would then set those up as the switches to take me from one panel